Welcome to the Driver's Line. I'm Jordan, and this week is the New York International Auto Show. Now, normally Greg and I fly up from North Carolina for these events, but we thought it'd be fun to try something different. We're going to do an EV road trip. But it's not just any EV, folks. This is the refreshed Tesla Model Y Juniper. We thought it'd be fun to put it through its paces because, I mean, it's 1,500 miles.
How bad can it be? So how bad could it be indeed? So we are now on the road to the New York Auto Show. We're still in North Carolina at this point.
Yep.
And we are in, of course, the refreshed Tesla Model Y Juniper. This is a 2025 year. This is actually the launch edition, which basically means it's a loaded Tesla Model Y. So we've got all-wheel drive, we've got dual motor, roughly 320 miles of range, I believe.
Yeah. And it costs just over $61,000.
That is because it comes with full self-driving.
That's right.
Which ours is currently not working.
It is not.
Since Tesla does not do any press cars, as is well known, so we rented this one off of a Turo host, and apparently all the people that had it before us were bad.
Yeah.
And so the full self-driving has disabled itself for the period of a week.
Which is
Not great. Not great, considering we are in North Carolina and driving to New York.
Yeah.
We were looking forward to actually using the full self-driving. And no, we don't get to.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the huge features of owning a Tesla. And, I get it from buyers who buy these things. I mean, if I'm commuting through traffic for, half an hour a day, why not let the car do it for me?
Absolutely.
So it is kind of a bummer that it's so restrictive like this for a week.
A week is rough.
Yeah. But let's see, now we get the full driving experience, I guess, of driving an electric car.
Yeah, which you really don't want to drive an electric car. But
At least we got the cruise control working, so there you go. Regular cruise control.
Yes, traffic adaptive cruise control. Yay. It's basically adaptive cruise control in any other vehicle.
Yeah, hopefully.
More or less.
Oh, yeah, it's working. It's working.
It is working as we approach this Camry in front of us, yes. All right, so let's talk about some of what Tesla did in this refresh.
Yeah, what makes a Juniper a Juniper?
What makes a Juniper a Juniper? It is not a tree, but it is a Tesla. And so one of the biggest change to this car is the exterior, right? So you've got the revised front fascia, the revised rear fascia, and it doesn't look great.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see what they're trying to do, right? The front is Cybertruck inspired, so it's got that light bar in the front with the separated headlights. I mean, in a way, it kind of works on the Cybertruck because it's so ugly and angular.
Right.
But on something like this...
Yeah, it does not work. The thing is, it's shaped like an egg.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, it doesn't have any angles on it, but they're like, oh, we're going to go ahead and put something inspired off of an angular vehicle.
Yeah, and we've talked about refreshes in past episodes where they've tried to adapt new styling cues onto existing bodies, and Tesla's trying to save some money here, use the same body style. We get it.
Yep.
But yeah, it doesn't really jive well. Now, I will say, I do kind of like the rear end treatment because it has that diffused light bar in the back.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I think it looks great when it's illuminated. When it's not illuminated, it looks stupid.
I can see that. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair criticism.
That's like,
it's like unfinished plastic back there.
Right, exactly. It looks like an unfinished plastic panel, which is, and Franz von Holzhausen is the lead Tesla designer, and he said that, the thing that he loves the most about it is that when you're driving at night, it kind of puts a glow down on the road behind you, and he calls it the afterburner.
Okay. Yeah, sure thing. But the rest of the body is the same.
The rest of it's largely carried over. The rear opening is a little bit wider and lower, which is great for loading in some of your stuff. But
considering this is an SUV.
Yep, and the front trunk is now actually has a drain plug in it, so you can fill it with ice and drinks and stuff.
Love that.
Which is kind of cool. So that is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that a lot of manufacturers are ignoring the front trunks now. Like,
I know.
So,
it kills me, like all these EVs that have like all the wires and nonsense up there. Like,
GM,
come on, you got all the space, make it something.
Especially when you're doing it from the ground up.
Yeah,
and,
for real.
Other people can do that. Clearly, Tesla can. So it's definitely feasible.
Yep.
With hours already under our belt, boredom was setting in, so I dove into the car's menus to liven the place up a bit, and the Tesla didn't disappoint once I enabled fart mode.
Do it. Indicate.
A Tesla road trip isn't complete without a little Tesla house music, courtesy of our friends at Spotify.
What do you think of this interior?
Yeah, well, I will say it's definitely a step up from the past. I do like the kind of fabric treatment that they put on the dashboard and the upgraded materials on the door panels, and everything does feel pretty well screwed together, I have to say.
Yeah. And, everything you touch is generally a premium feel, right? Like, it doesn't feel cheap. There's no hard plastics.
Yeah, I mean, the first Teslas when they came out, there were some issues, but I would say that this definitely feels worth the cost when you combine it with the technology that's involved with the package, right? But yeah, sitting in here, it's pretty quiet. I mean, I know that's something that Tesla focused on for the refreshed Juniper.
Yeah, one of the big features they had in trying to improve the Model Y was the NVH, which is noise, vibration, and harshness in the auto lingo. And one of the biggest issues from the previous Model Y, it had a lot of boominess and like a reverberation coming from the back.
Right.
I don't get that at all in here. It feels just as quiet as any car, and frankly, an EV has to be held to a higher standard because its drivetrain is virtually silent.
Yeah, which reminds me, I do appreciate the fact that there's no like crazy noises coming out of this thing when I accelerate. It is it's an EV, right? But it's not a performance one, so it makes sense.
You don't want a Fratzonic exhaust.
I kind of go back and forth with it, but in a car like this, it wouldn't make sense, right?
Absolutely.
But one other very important thing about this interior, we have a turn signal stalk.
Oh, that is the best thing, because it got rid of the stupid turn signal buttons on the steering wheel.
Yes,
which is just
so dumb.
The worst idea Tesla's ever had.
Yes,
especially to put them both on the same side.
Yeah.
Why? If you're going to do the buttons, put one on each side.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I will say, like, using the steering wheel has been pretty easy to adapt to. Its interface with the software, Tesla does a great job with that.
Mm-hmm.
So even though, this is one of the few Teslas I've been in and driven in, I caught on right away to using most of the interface. And, it does involve a little digging through menus. Yeah. I will say I would have appreciated a few more buttons just for common use things like setting the climate, for instance. You do have to kind of dig through here a little bit, but I mean, it's within reach, so it's not super crazy.
It is, and they do offer voice control, so you can toggle the voice control from the steering wheel, give the car a command, and it'll usually do it. Yeah,
it's pretty good. We've tested it a couple of times, and it's done what it needs to do.
It does.
For instance, opening the glove box, it did it right away.
Yeah,
so there's not really a button over there to do that with.
Yeah, good luck trying to open it on your own.
You can't really do that, right?
Things like that are just unnecessary improvements, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not just have a little latch?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense, but
yeah.
One thing I don't like about the interior is we have all this light-colored finish here, but in the rear quarter, it's black.
It's true.
It doesn't make sense. Again, that's just one of those additional things that doesn't make sense. Why do that?
Yeah.
And it's largely due to the fact that they made the rear hatch area black. And so they wanted to kind of probably finish that off, but when you're in the cabin, it feels disconnected.
Yeah, that's true. That's an odd choice. That's a strange choice.
Yeah.
Well, that's another strange choice, is placing the hazard button up here. I'm not sure why it's in the roof.
Right there.
Along with some gear selector buttons, because as you guys know, or may not know, all the driving that's done in terms of gear changes and stuff like that is done up here on the screen, right? Forwards and reverse is just done through a finger swipe, and it's actually pretty easy to use, honestly.
So one of the other big changes here is this beautiful ambient lighting strip that goes all the way around the front and onto the rear door panels as well. Fun fact, it will flash and go rainbow at you when you're using full self-driving.
Sure will. It's like driving Mario Kart Rainbow Road.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I did think, like, I've seen other manufacturers, like Volkswagen, for instance, utilize that light bar for like the turn signal. And I think that's a pretty cool idea, honestly, because especially when you're in self-driving mode and it starts switching gears, switching lanes, the really only indicator of that is the little camera might pop up and you have that green typical signal. So I think it would be pretty nice if at least the light on the door kind of indicated that to you, so that you can double check for your comfort. But otherwise, it does add a kind of nice richness to the cabin at night.
It does. And, it's just a nice additional feature with staying in their idea of minimalism, right? Like everything in this car is minimalistic. We can't see any speakers, but there's a sound system. Right. We can't see any air vents, but we have air conditioning.
Speaking of air vents, that's another thing that really should be addressed, because changing it through the screen is pretty annoying, I have to say. I guess most of the time if you leave it in auto, that's fine, but I know a lot of people don't do that. Like, they really like to adjust the airflow.
Right, I want to, my wife loves it blowing on her face.
Right.
I'm like, I hate it blowing on my face.
Right.
That's the last place I want to blow it.
So yeah, that could be something we can just adjust, but these are little quibbles from folks who don't really do a lot of technology in their cars, right?
As long as we have functional air conditioning, we're usually pretty happy.
So yeah, I imagine someone who is immersed in the tech world, that really would be an issue for them.
Exactly. So, last couple of changes with the interior. We now have motorized seat backs, so power folding rear seats, which is great.
Yeah.
The 8-inch rear screen right here for your rear seat passengers. They can adjust their temperatures and things of that nature, and also play games on it, I believe. So
that is fun.
Yeah, a nice little additional feature.
Yeah, it's a great little family car there.
Yeah. As long as your kids can reach there. My kids are strapped into car seats so they can touch anything. Besides each other, magically, they can always hit each other.
That's for the best, because you imagine their fingerprints all over the screen.
I know. Yeah.
You're a child, Greg. You're a child. Greg's childish behavior or not, it was time for our first charging stop. Like all other Teslas, the Model Y needs to be backed into every charging station, which is made more difficult than it needs to be by the lack of 360-degree camera. Charging itself is a breeze, as you simply link a credit card to the Tesla app and then plug it in, and just stare at it while it vigorously chewing gum.
All right, so what do you think about the performance of this Model Y Juniper Launch Edition?
It's funny you say Launch Edition. I think that this is a very appropriate name for this, because it launches off the line really well. I mean, this thing hauls out of the stoplight. Out of the stop sign. You don't really want to do that, but if you need to. But even like when you're driving on the highway, for instance, and you need to pass somebody, it still has ample power, which is something that a lot of EVs struggle with as those electric motors are spinning. So there's plenty of power in reserve. It's actually a really fun car to drive in that regard. There's obviously not a ton of feedback in terms of steering and stuff like that, but
no. That is one of the things they tried to improve. Actually, was the steering feel. It's a little less darty.
It is
than the previous Model Y. So that's one of the really components they tried to work on. The other one was the suspension. So they called up their chef de suspension and said, "Hey, you need to make this a little bit better." So the previous Y suffered a lot from ride quality. That was one of the biggest issues that so many reviewers had about the previous Y. So one of the biggest changes they made to this car is they put in frequency response dampers, which is to say a really fancy suspension. They reduced the spring stiffness. They made the actual structure of the car a lot stiffer, which then allowed them actually to do a lot more with the suspension. So it's somewhat cushy on initial impact, but then it actually damps really well after that.
Yeah, it's definitely not floaty at all, and it's certainly much more comfortable than the previous version, and it gives it a much more refined kind of experience, which is much more appropriate for a car of this price range, of this kind of positioning in the market, right? So if you're looking, if you're Tesla and you're looking to make a name for yourself, I mean, you already do kind of a name for yourself, don't get me wrong, but when you're getting, when you're getting competitors who are undercutting you in price, right, you need to carve out that semi-luxuries-esque, market. Exactly. That's a great way to do it, because a lot of people pay attention to ride quality, and this is certainly improved.
Absolutely. I mean, the Model Y is literally the best-selling car in the world. Yeah. Full stop. Not the best-selling EV, not the best-selling SUV, is the best-selling car in the world. And so this is a very important revision for Tesla, so they need to get it right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think that they got it wrong based on the driving impressions that we have for 99% of the users of these cars.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. And I mean, even the body motion side to side, there's not really a ton of body motions like swaying and stuff like that. It keeps itself really well controlled, and even though this is not a performance car, and that's not really the intention, controlling the body of the vehicle is still something that adds to that level of refinement. So, I think they did a great job packaging that up. I will also add, sure, the steering feel is still not what I would consider great, but it's definitely improved. And you do still have those 3 levels of steering feel. So, like right now, I have it in a heavy setting, right? But you do have a comfort mode if that's kind of your preference, and there's kind of an in-between normal mode. And there is some slight differences between them. Sometimes you can't really tell, but in this particular model, you can tell a difference from the comfort to the heavy setting. So that is welcome.
Nice, absolutely. All the launch editions have, they're essentially fully loaded, right? So launch edition's about 61 grand. The base Model Y, which is dual motor, is long range, but it comes in around 50-51. And so you get the acceleration boost with the launch edition. So that's roughly, I think it's a $2,000 option on your Model Y, but the launch edition comes with it, and that reduces your acceleration 0 to 60 from about 4.0 down to about 4.1 seconds, which is actually pretty quick. Tried really hard to look up the horsepower for this thing because I was really curious. The previous one was 384 for the dual motor long range. But Tesla doesn't publish a number. So they don't care about horsepower in their plaid or performance vehicles, because it's not really a bragging point.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing this is probably roughly right around that 384. It's kind of what it feels like when you're driving around in it.
Yeah.
But they don't actually tell you what it is.
That's interesting. Yeah. Kind of keep some things a mystery, I guess, right? But at least some things. But yeah, it's definitely more than adequate power-wise, for sure.
It is. It really is. It gets down the road just, better than the flow of traffic, frankly. You're not wanting for any power.
Very effortless. Very effortless.
And, frankly, you're not wanting for any range either. It's got a really nice range on it. About 320 miles, a little bit over that, I believe, is what Tesla quotes. We're on the smaller size wheel. If you up to the 20s, I think, that reduces it down to 303. Right. But either way, you're getting over 300 miles of range, which is really, really nice. And we actually just completed our first charging stop.
Yes, we did.
And in about half an hour, it gave us, went from about 12% to 90%.
Yeah. So,
that's not bad.
That's not.
We had breakfast, and that's all we had time for was breakfast.
Yeah. We barely finished breakfast.
I know.
So that's really not too terrible. Obviously it's longer than a typical gas visit, but
absolutely,
it's something that on a road trip you could plan for, right? And
could be welcome, right? You want to get out and stretch your legs and all those things. I've got little kids; they need to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, so we can work that in. Things of that nature certainly come in handy.
Yeah, and if you're using this for around town stuff, that range is going to be plenty for you to have within a day, and then you just go home and plug it in at night, just like you do your phone. So I can definitely see it working out. I think the 300 number is really where you want to be in terms of range.
I think that really should kind of be the minimum
Yeah.
for an all-purpose vehicle,
Exactly.
right? Like if you have something where you're just going to be around town, you could have something less. But if you want to use it like you would in a normal gas-powered vehicle,
Right.
then I think 300 is really probably the bottom of what you want to find.
Yeah.
Which this car has.
Yeah, works out great.
Given that the Tesla Model Y Juniper has an abundance of range, we decided a little diversion was in order, a trip to our nation's capital. We wanted to take in the sights and sounds of the city in this latest Tesla and had hoped to test full self-driving against the notorious DC traffic. That led us to a great idea. Perhaps a visit to the newest Tesla service center on Pennsylvania Avenue could re-enable full self-driving, but oddly, that service center seems to have already closed. We left DC a little disappointed, but continue to be impressed by the Juniper's efficiency.
What do you think of the efficiency here in our Model Y long range?
I mean, what it's claiming to get has been pretty accurate. We haven't really deviated much from, if it tells me that it's got 115 miles, we go maybe 113 miles. It really is pretty bang on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's doing great. What do you think?
So on a full charge, it's about a little over 320 miles. Tesla, I think, claims 327. You're obviously never going to charge to full, right? Like, I mean, that's one of the things you're not supposed to do in EV. So you kind of live in that 20 to 80%. And so, 80% is going to be like the high 200s, right? From what we've seen, it does a really good job of that, as long as you keep your foot out of the
Accelerator.
worry pedal. I guess we can't call it the loud pedal. Out of the worrying pedal. But, one of the coolest things about this car is how fast it charges. So that's one of the things that Tesla improved. I think they claim a 15% quicker charge speed.
Wow.
And after our first charging stop, you kind of feel it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we went from about 12 or 13% all the way to 90% in about half an hour, which is really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, right, Tesla says you get 169 miles of charge just in 15 minutes. So, if you're needing a quick emergency stop, that definitely does the trick.
Absolutely, yeah. If you know you only have to go like just a little bit further and you want to just get enough juice to get there, then you can manage that in 15 minutes, which, frankly, if you're like pulling into a gas station that, happens to have a charger at it and you need to use the bathroom at the same time, like, I mean, it's going to take you 15 minutes to do all that generally.
For
so,
sure.
I mean, you go, get yourself charged and then go inside, do what you need to do inside,
Check
come
some
back out,
emails.
check some emails, flip on your phone for a minute.
Yeah.
That 15 minutes goes by real quick.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen people at the chargers, that's basically what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's the behavior. So
Yep. A lot of people just sitting in their cars, doing something on the tablet or on their phone. Because the car still, lets you use all the features within the car while it's charging.
yeah, climate control's running. I mean, you can use the screen for a variety of different things. There's a built-in theater experience here, so you can watch some movies on your tablet.
Yes.
Theater is it's a pretty decent screen, honestly, but I
That's
don't
not bad.
know what theater is.
It's not like Dolby Atmos or anything like that with their sound quality, but it's not bad. One of the cool things about the new Model Y is it's the first one, I believe, that has the hardware 4 in it. I think the Cybertrucks even still have hardware 3, but hardware 4 is Tesla's latest and greatest. This is the one that a lot of people think could actually be the one that goes full self-driving.
That would be a pretty awesome experience, wouldn't it?
Unsupervised, yeah.
Unsupervised.
So, Tesla still, famously relies on nothing but cameras, and then uses computing power to kind of make up the difference from what a LiDAR sensor would also give you. But in the little bit that we were able to use full self-driving before it decided to turn itself off, because of Jordan's misbehaviors,
I was reaching for the tablet too many times, I guess.
But it actually worked reasonably well, is what we kind of did find. So, unfortunately, we can't show that to you because that was before we started filming. But we just have to take our word for it that it did work reasonably well.
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, the only things I would say is it kind of freaked out on were hitting the ends of roads. Like if you were trying to pull into a house, it kind of had no idea what to do, so you had to stop there. And obviously, you still need to be a defensive driver. So when you're hitting multiple lanes of traffic and there's cars changing lanes, it's gonna be aware of the things directly around it, and it's gonna change lanes, but it's not gonna be able to predict what other drivers are gonna do. You still need to be attentive to that. So that's always a best practice. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. So something that certainly need to be carried forward, and something where the computer is doing some of the driving.
Yeah, I mean, but it definitely does take a lot of stress off the driver if you're someone who has to deal with that daily grind every day. It's definitely a useful tool and something I would highly recommend looking after if you are that person who isn't into driving experience in terms of fun and sportiness, but you need something to get you from work to home.
Absolutely, yeah.
As night fell, we finally made it to New York. The trip north totaled approximately 12 hours, including 3 required charging stops. One helpful feature of the Tesla is that you can set a minimum charge for arrival, so we added in a 4th charging stop to ensure we arrived at our hotel with enough charge to get us back out of the city and on our way home. We stayed at the New Yorker in honor of Nikola Tesla, who famously lived there for a decade in the midst of his work. After attending the New York Auto Show and running into a guy who had a lot of strange takes on the newest cars, it was time to go. So we loaded up the Model Y and headed home.
All right, guys, we are on our way back home after an awesome time at the New York Auto Show. We are in Northern Virginia now, so we're quite a way through our trip. But one of the key features of the Tesla Model Y Juniper revision is that the suspension is pretty substantially improved. So we're like, what is the best way to test and improve suspension on some of these glassy roads that we're on right now? So we went and bought a bunch of marshmallows, and Jordan's going to put them on his lap, and we're going to see what happens.
Hey, you're doing a good job so far.
It is.
You're testing out the handling, right?
No, we're just seeing how it does.
No.
That was the automated, that we're using the adaptive cruise essentially on it, and that was just itself braking. I didn't even touch the pedal, so don't blame me. That was all the car. All the car. Maybe we'll turn it off to make it a little smoother for you. What do you think? Turn it off, make it smoother? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, did the light turn green?
That was the most bizarre feeling experience I've ever had in my life. It was rough, but also like a kind caress from the marshmallows.
Like this?
Oh my god! Oh
We're not even going the speed limit yet. This car passing me is like, who is that asshole? All right, that's us. We're at the driver's line.
So I think we
Testing things to make it better for you.
Well, I think we can conclude certainly that the suspension damping has definitely helped things, right? I mean, that didn't cause any chaos until you started driving the jerk.
No, I will say that the suspension on this car, as far as my own personal feeling, is good. Like, I mean, it's not fantastic, it's not bad, it's good. I mean, it's perfectly ideal, right? Like, I mean, there's nothing, negative really to say about it. It's fine.
That's true. And clearly it handles well because that low center of gravity.
Yep, with the battery pack down low. That's one of Tesla's key elements. Has routinely had very, very good handling for especially the heft of these, products that they make.
Very true. Very true. How do you feel about the one pedal braking on it?
The one pedal braking is great. I've always loved the one pedal driving. It just makes life really easy, and it's kind of turns into a game sometimes a little bit. You try to predict when to stop, and I will say that the Y revision that we're in has a little bit different than previous Teslas. They kind of came to a kind of an abrupt halt. This one kind of slows down almost to a stop and then kind of creeps just for a second.
Yeah. And
I think that's probably just to try to make it a little bit smoother for you. But it's kind of a disconcerting feeling because you're like, is it actually going to stop?
It's kind of scary.
Hey, buddy, can you give me a snack?
Sure.
That's too many. Perfect.
From my lap to your mouth.
Oh.
the final charging stop before we made the push for home, we decided there was one more test we wanted to run. The stick test. Many Teslas have had trouble recognizing when there is something blocking power liftgates and trunks. So we wanted to see how the Juniper fared, and, well, it wasn't great. But, in its defense, it was a small twig, roughly the size of a child's finger. Since we were returning home, we decided to save ourselves the embarrassment and put bags over our heads so nobody would recognize us, and then we got back out on the open road, ready to bring our road trip to a close.
Well, that was a good road trip.
Yeah, that was a fun road trip. A little odd at the end wearing the bags, but so it goes. You try to save yourself from embarrassment.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out we didn't really need it, honestly. I think Greg and I came into this expecting the worst, and we were actually mostly pleasantly surprised. There are a lot of great things about the new refreshed Juniper Model Y. Namely, at the top, it's super comfortable. I mean, they have made so many improvements from the last model. The suspension is way smoother. It is very, very quiet inside. So on these long road trips, you barely hear anything.
Absolutely.
And so this is really great for like families because they're not going to, get on each other's nerves. There's
right.
Fantastic little doodads on the inside. There's games in the back for the kids. There's also games in the back for the adult kids. Fart noises included.
Hey, you know what? Big kids need toys too.
So it really does well keeping you entertained, keeping you comfortable, and not to mention, we really thought we were going to have some serious range anxiety. But from the fantastic range that this thing has, well over 300 miles, and then the awesome supercharger network, we were breaking up our trip, and that's kind of necessary, honestly, when you're doing a long road trip, especially if you're taking families with you. You would stop, charge in, plug in. You could get a few hundred miles in between 15-30 minutes and get back on the road, and it really wasn't a concern. The built-in navigation system knows where to take you and plan so that it maximizes your time on the road and you're not worrying about electric range. So overall, we were really pleasantly surprised with the overall package of the new Model Y.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the performance is also just outstanding. You have that instant torque from those electric motors, about 384 horsepower, I believe. So this thing just kicks and you can just zip right out and leave everybody else behind. But that is a trait that is shared with pretty much every EV out there.
Super fun.
Super fun. Super fun. But there was also some things we didn't like. Namely, visibility. That visibility was one of the keys that we really didn't like. Starting with that gun slit of a rear window, it is very, very difficult to see out of the back of this thing. And that is obviously due to the shape of this because they're trying to maximize efficiency. There's a couple other things that we didn't like. You have to back this thing in everywhere. Literally back it in everywhere because that's how the Tesla charges. Charging ports on the back of the car. This vehicle does not have a 360-degree camera.
Nope.
For a vehicle with cameras everywhere, there is no rear-facing camera.
Yeah, it's a very odd omission, honestly.
It is. It's a massive omission because they have the computing power, literally a hardware for a car.
Yep.
And they don't even bother to put a 360 camera there, largely because they're probably expecting it to park for you.
Exactly.
But for those of us who want to park ourselves, sometimes we like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to be able to trust it to drive for you, you should be able to, give yourself an image around the car.
Exactly.
That's easy enough.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And there's a few other elements that we didn't like. This glass roof. There is no shade. It's wonderful in probably 90% of the situations you're in, but when that sun is just coming straight through, hitting you right on your forehead, not great.
Some of us tan better than others, so it didn't bother us as much, but I can definitely see why it was.
It's not even a tanning element, it's just a glare element, my friend. So, but I mean, how simple would it be to put a shade, right? Like, I mean,
exactly.
something that literally powers everything. Yeah. Why not just put a little powered sunshade in there?
Absolutely.
It's so easy and straightforward.
Absolutely.
So, that kind of brings us to our conclusion of it, right? So, with Tesla opening up their NACS chargers to everybody now, and a lot of automakers coming out with those NACS chargers, you might be able to get a better EV. And then use what makes the Tesla great, which is that supercharger network. So, do that.
There you go. On that fantastic revelation, it's time to end.
Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on The Driver's Line.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss a thing.
So what do you think of this? You know, it's all computer, right?